Welcome to Spotlight on Middlesex County. I am Freeholder Director Ron Rios. Spotlight on Middlesex County is a production of the Middlesex County Improvement Authority in cooperation with the Middlesex County Board of Freeholders. Former Freeholder Director Chris Rafano recently took his seat as a judge in the Superior Court of New Jersey, and of course, we congratulate him and wish him well. His service as Freeholder for 15 years and Freeholder Director for 3 of those years gave us solid leadership, and the accomplishments under his watch are many. My colleagues on the board have given me the opportunity to serve as Freeholder Director, and I am humbled, grateful, and certainly ready to do all I can to create and support policies that will provide the best services to Middlesex County residents at low cost. The challenges are there, but I know we can operate county government efficiently with programs and services that benefit all of our citizens in Middlesex County. Today's program will feature an endeavor that is very close to my heart, the fight against pancreatic cancer, and the annual Middlesex County Pancreatic Cancer Walk that helps raise funds for important medical research. In 2012, the walk, which was held in Roosevelt Park in Edison, raised $25,000 for pancreatic cancer research. This year's walk is scheduled for June 8th, and we certainly hope to exceed the funds raised last year. In addition to talking about the upcoming walk, we will also be able to discuss the status of important research and treatments for pancreatic cancer at the Cancer Institute of New Jersey. Joining me today is Les Jones, Middlesex County's health officer, and someone who has been instrumental in raising awareness of pancreatic cancer in the Central Jersey community. Dr. Edmund Latamy is a researcher at the Cancer Institute of New Jersey. Dr. Latamy is Deputy Director at the Institute and a Professor of Surgery at UMDNJ Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. This will be Dr. Latamy's second appearance on this show, and I look forward to his update on research at the Institute. Also joining us is Dr. Rebecca Moss, a medical oncologist and a member of the Gastrointestinal Liver Oncology Program at the Cancer Institute of New Jersey. Dr. Moss is also an assistant professor of medicine at UMDNJ Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. I'd like to welcome all of you, Les Jones, Dr. Latamy, and Dr. Moss, for coming today, and I appreciate you coming here today. Just for some background information, if you can give us a little facts about pancreatic cancer.
Pancreatic cancer is a very deadly cancer. It's actually responsible for almost as many deaths every year in this country as breast cancer, a cancer that we hear a lot more about. And pancreas cancer, unfortunately, kills almost everybody who's diagnosed with the disease because it is such an aggressive disease. It's also usually diagnosed pretty late, meaning that the cancer has already had an opportunity to start spreading throughout the body before we become aware of it. And that makes it a lot more difficult to treat effectively. And so for that reason, research on treating and on diagnosing the disease is very, very important.
Could you give us a little background as far as what the pancreas actually does?
The pancreas really plays like a behind-the-scenes role in the digestive tract. It's a small organ that's tucked up behind the liver, behind the stomach. It doesn't have a lot of sensory nerves in it. It doesn't feel pain. And it works hard to produce hormones and enzymes that we need for digestion and all of the sort of basic functions that we do to digest our food, including insulin, which is important for digestion and goes awry in diabetes.
And how is it affected when cancer hits the pancreas?
When part of the pancreas develops a cancer, because of the sort of hidden nature of the organ, that cancer may not cause any symptoms right away. It may not cause symptoms for a while. Also, because it's got this very central location in the digestive tract, unfortunately, that cancer has easy access to some of the vital organs in the body, particularly the liver.
Les, give our audience a little background as how our county got involved with the pancreatic cancer walk, and especially your department, the health department?
Middlesex County has had a long-standing commitment to providing screening and educational services through our cancer education and early detection program, and also our relationship with the Cancer Coalition of Middlesex County, which is now known as the Chronic Disease Coalition, because, as you know, the doctors have explained, a number of other diseases impact upon cancers as well, and may even be indicators for possibly cancers in the future that people need to get early screening and detection for. Pancreatic cancer has also had an impact upon our Middlesex County families as well, knowing that your situation, Freeholder Director, with your mother, we have some other employees that's impacted their families as well. So this will be our fifth pancreatic cancer walk. The first 3 years was really our getting going into the walk, and we raised approximately a little over $8,000 in those 3 years. In our fourth year, we really stepped it up, and we raised $25,000, and of course this year we're hoping to exceed that again. More importantly though, we've been able to increase the awareness, the knowledge and education of the people that we are able to reach out and contact through the walk, come and participate in the walk, and that's the most important and critical thing that we can do, besides raising money for the great research that's going on right here in New Brunswick at the Cancer Institute.
Tell us a little bit about the walk on June 8th.
The walk will be held on June 8th at 9 a.m. We will start at the level playing fields at Roosevelt Park, and we will walk around the lake. People can walk around as much as they would like. It's become really a social event over the last 4 years. We will have music and some entertainment provided by one of our sponsors and partners, WCTC, WMGQ will be there. We will have food there for the participants from some of our sponsors. We will also have many other organizations through the Chronic Disease Coalition that will be there to provide education and information on other diseases, on cancer and the various cancers, also how people can get involved and participate in a lot of these programs.
That's what I was going to ask you. How, if maybe you could tell our audience how people can get involved in the walk itself.
In the walk itself, they can go to the CINJ Foundation website, which will be appearing at the bottom of the screen, and at that website, they will be able to register for the walk. There is a $15 registration fee to walk. They can also start teams. Last year we had a number of teams that came and participated. We also had some little competitions going on between various teams, which was really exciting and just brought it out to be quite a family type of event. Also, if people have any specific questions or if they have any difficulties with the website, they can contact our office at area code 732-745-3131.
Thank you. The research that goes on and with the funds that we raise from our walk, maybe you can give us a little story there and tell us how the research is involved, what the research involved is from the proceeds from the walk.
Our group at the Cancer Institute has been very interested in the development of cancer vaccines, and we've studied the interaction between the tumor and the immune response to find out why isn't the immune response being more effective and what can we do to make it so. We made what we thought was an interesting observation in the laboratory. The team came together at the Cancer Institute with medical oncologists such as Dr. Moss, gastroenterologists, surgeons, to what we call translate that research into the clinic, led to a quite rapid phase 1 trial to take what we learned about the kind of vaccine, how it's administered to patients. We, with the team working very hard, put together a phase 1 trial. We've just completed actually accrual of that trial. The 14th patient was actually treated for the first time yesterday. And we are looking now at analyzing the materials that we collected during the trial to learn mechanisms and how things are happening. With regards to your question about last year's funds, we've really used them for two purposes. And two purposes that actually allowed us not only to carry out the trial. Trials at the Cancer Institute do not depend on the patient's ability to pay. And so a significant amount of the funding went towards extra scans, extra blood tests, things that we needed not only to carry out the trial for the patients, but also to collect materials for research. The rest of the funds from last year are going to a new innovative technology that we are using to look at what's happening in the tumor in the pancreas. We take very small biopsies, and in the past, in analyzing those, we've been able to look at one marker, two markers, three markers. With new technologies, we're now able to look at 1,000 markers.
Wow.
And we have 2 samples of tissue from each patient pre and post-vaccine, so we can see what's happening before we immunize and what's happening after we immunize. And that's going to lead to the design of the next trial, which is ongoing.
Great.
The other thing that we're doing is that we're continuing to follow and take care of these patients who've been treated on our trial. And a lot of the patients are doing, we think, surprisingly well, considering that they are living with this really devastating disease. And we think that bears a lot of promise for the kind of research that Dr. Latamy has developed, that these patients are, some of them, really living with their disease in a different way than we're used to seeing with metastatic pancreas cancer or with pancreas cancer that can't be removed surgically. And that's very, very exciting, and we're hoping the kind of studies that Dr. Latamy's team is moving forward and doing will help us understand better why some patients are living longer, why some of them, the cancer isn't spreading to the liver the way we'd expect it to, and which may be helping them live longer. And the research hopefully will open more doors for how we can use this kind of technology in the future to help people.
Great, great. Now, so then, if we were able to raise more funds, would that make more advances in research or more therapies towards towards our goal of reaching a cure and treatment?
I mean, last year's funds have really helped this particular study, and we have additional studies being done at the Cancer Institute in pancreas cancer that could all benefit from additional funding. As you probably know, national funding is very low at this time, and more philanthropic funds are being required and needed to continue ongoing research, but also to start new research. Right now, funding is a problem.
Maybe you can give us a little more information about the Cancer Institute itself.
As you know, we are the state's only National Cancer Institute designated comprehensive cancer center. We cover all aspects of cancer, from treatment to research to population studies with incidence. At any one time, we have about 150 clinical trials open across the board in just about every disease. We enroll about 400 patients a year on what we call therapeutic trials with vaccines and therapeutic agents. And a total of about 3,000 patients a year are enrolled on clinical trials when one expands the definition to quality of health and populations across the state. New Jersey is the most diverse state in the country, and this gives us a lot of opportunity to study diseases across different populations.
So having the designation as a comprehensive cancer center, how do the patients actually benefit from that designation?
It makes a big difference. By virtue of our recognition by the National Cancer Institute, we are part of several consortia groups that give us access to the newest agents. We are one of a small number of centers funded by NCI for phase 1 trials. This is facilitated with collaborations with the National Institutes of Health. It's facilitated our availability of the virus that we used in this study and a whole range of the newest agents. We are also part of a consortium for phase 2 studies in more advanced trials, and we're a major player in the area of prostate cancer research as well, all made possible by the NCI designation. One additional aspect is we are formally recognized as what's called a consortium cancer center between Rutgers University, the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey, and in our last designation, Princeton University. The laboratory studies that I mentioned earlier are actually being done to a large part by our collaborators at Princeton.
We've had some exciting clinical trials, and can you give us some background or some results of how positive those trials are?
Well, for the vaccine trial, I think we're still in the process of analyzing it, although we're so delighted that some of our patients have been able to live so long with this disease. One of the very important things that we do, that Dr. Latamy mentioned, is we do phase 1 trials, which is where we develop new drugs against cancer or new ways to combine drugs against cancer in the hopes that they'll be more effective. And a lot, people in New Jersey enroll in those trials who don't have good options for their bad disease, and we hope that they will get the advantage of living longer with these new drugs that wouldn't otherwise be available to them. And for a lot of these agents, if we start to understand why these medications are working, we can bring them forward and start using them in larger groups of patients with specific types of disease, which are the phase 2 trials that Dr. Latamy referred to. And those trials are done not only at our center, but often in collaboration with our partners nationwide.
The therapy itself that you do for the patients, maybe you can give us a little background on the science of the therapy itself.
We've known for a long time that the immune response doesn't recognize tumors, or certainly doesn't effectively recognize tumors, whereas it's incredibly effective with infectious disease, smallpox, chickenpox, measles, and the like. So we've spent time trying to dissect what happens in that interaction. We found an interesting finding, and that was that in several laboratory models that we use, we didn't believe there was any immune response taking place. Using new technologies, what we found, surprisingly, was there was a very vigorous immune response going on in the tumor, but because of negative pathways, it wasn't making its way out of the tumor, and it was being held in check. That led to the idea that perhaps we should be immunizing and manipulating the tumor what's called the tumor microenvironment itself. And that led us to the mouse studies that demonstrated surprising effectiveness by doing that. And that's what carried on to translate to the clinical trial that we've just finished.
One of the things about being an NCI designated comprehensive cancer center is it's also a recognition that the doctors work together as a team with the scientists. And as part of the gastrointestinal and hepatobiliary tumor study group, I work with a dedicated team of doctors, surgeons, gastroenterologists, who developed this very sophisticated technique to actually inject into the pancreatic tumor for Dr. Latamy's trial. And we worked together to bring complicated technologies to people that we're taken care of at the Cancer Institute.
Actually, in this case, it's exactly the way it happened. We presented our mouse data that really looked interesting at one of our many conferences. And I was surrounded at the end of that meeting by the team that Rebecca talked about that said, let's get together, let's design a study, let's do this in pancreas cancer. And I have to say, I sort of smiled and said, well, I was thinking about melanoma, where you can inject it into the skin. How are you possibly going to do this into the pancreas? And they said, let's work together. You get us the appropriate virus, and we'll make it happen. And they made it happen, just as Rebecca said.
Teamwork.
Teamwork.
Teamwork at its best.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the difference between other therapies, as a layman myself, you see people getting, or you hear people, or yourself getting it, injections in the arm or the leg versus going directly to the tumor. If you can elaborate a little bit on the science behind it, or the difference.
Actually, the place that we were all used to getting vaccines is in the arm or the leg. The whole immune system is geared up in the skin to protect against infection. And so that's where you would expect to have the best result. What we found in the laboratory is that the tumor was, through a variety of mechanisms that we're still sort of dissecting, was blocking that response in the arm or the leg. We now, though, know that we can do further manipulations to make, we believe, at least in the mouse, to make the arm and the leg a very good target. And that would also make this available to more people.
And what are the other available treatments for pancreatic cancer?
Most people with pancreas cancer that can't be removed surgically are treated with chemotherapy. And we're getting a little bit better with chemotherapies by combining drugs at helping people live a little bit longer, sometimes with a lot of side effects. And even on the vaccine trial, the patients, after they've gotten their vaccine and an opportunity for the immune system to rev up and start to react against the tumor, those patients are also treated with chemotherapy, which helps them. But we're hoping that the combination of the two, activating the body's own defense through immune system, through the vaccine and chemotherapy together, are helping people to live longer.
Does vaccine therapy hold promise for treating other cancers?
It's FDA approved actually to treat, there's a type of vaccine therapy for prostate cancer. There's immune therapy that's used routinely now for melanoma. So, and there's a lot of excitement now. The science in Dr. Latamy's field is just seeming to come to the point where we're starting to understand how to use the immune system to help fight cancer. So this hopefully is the next great frontier.
One of the things, as I said, was that there are a variety of ways that the tumor fights off the immune response and shuts it off. And now there's a new agent that's just been, as Rebecca said, just been approved and on the market that takes the brakes off of the immune system. So it's not a tumor-specific treatment or vaccine, but it takes the brakes off and allows the immune response to be amplified. There's a lot of interest in that way of treatment. As I say, one's been approved, and what a lot of us are looking at now are ways of combining that. A vaccine, which is a positive, and an agent to take the brakes off.
Understanding that there's always processes and applications or trials that you do in medicine, and obviously we know that when a pharmaceutical company has to make or is making a drug, we know that it takes years before they get approvals. How does that affect you?
Well, because we do phase 1 trials, roughly the way that a drug gets approved is it seems promising, it cures a mouse. Then a variety of things are done to try to ensure that it'll be safe for people. And then it goes into a phase 1 trial. And that's what we do at the Cancer Institute for cancer agents, is we do phase 1 trials where patients are given the drug under very, very careful conditions with a lot of attention to safety. And we try to figure out which dose of the drug seems to be safe and effective. Then it will go into a phase 2 trial, and that'll take a few years, and then into a phase 3 trial where it's given to hundreds of patients and compared to whatever the standard treatment is. So that process can be 5 to 10 years. So therefore, our patients who are being treated on phase 1 trials are being treated with what we hope are the drugs of the future. These are drugs that are going to have to go through a very, very long process to see if they bear the promise that they showed in the laboratory. And so by participating in a trial, we hope our patients are getting access to the treatments of the future.
Do you anticipate other advances made in pancreatic cancer?
I hope so.
Maybe you could tell us some risk factors.
The risk factors for pancreas cancer seem to be associated with some lifestyle and general health factors, these chronic diseases that Les is talking about. Diabetes is actually the #1 risk factor for pancreas cancer, and smoking. So those are certainly the most important risk factors. Certainly there are people who get pancreas cancer who are not smokers and who don't have diabetes, but both smoking and diabetes are probably the most important. Having a healthy lifestyle seems to help protect people against pancreas cancer, so healthy diet, not having diabetes, exercising regularly, we hope will reduce the risk, although obviously there are no guarantees.
How many cases can you tell us off the top of your head about nationally or statewide?
Nationally, there are around 45,000 cases a year and almost 40,000 patients a year who succumb to pancreas cancer. Here in New Jersey, we have similar ratio. There are around 1,200 cases a year and around 1,000 patients dying annually from the disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
Internationally and nationally, is research growing in
We've had some advances recently. We're doing better with our treatments in terms of combining our toxic chemotherapies. We and a few other centers are looking at vaccines, but I think that pancreas cancer gets a lot less attention and a lot less research money, frankly, than some of the other diseases that are more visible, such as breast cancer, which kills pretty much the same number of people as pancreas cancer.
And the funding is really lopsided, right?
The funding is lopsided, but we're really delighted that there is a walk supporting research in pancreas cancer because it affects so many people.
The research teams nationally or internationally, do we share? Are we able to share information and progress worldwide?
Absolutely. You'll see frequently there will be collaborative studies. Just our vaccine research in this trial is a collaboration with investigators at the National Cancer Institute. All of the findings that we have are published as rapidly as possible, and that shares all of the results worldwide.
Well, it's, I feel comfortable and confident that we're going to raise more money from our pancreatic cancer walk this year. And I just feel positive that, I remember one of my college professors saying, giving us couple of pennies in a class and said, this is 3 cents, this is change, make a positive change. I think as team work together, we can make a positive change. I would like to thank Les Jones from the County Office of Health Services, Dr. Edmund Latamy, and Dr. Rebecca Moss from the Cancer Institute of New Jersey for this discussion. The results for the clinical trial of vaccine therapy are certainly a good sign because we all want to see more effective therapies for this difficult disease. More research holds a promise of additional advances in treatments for pancreatic cancer. The funds raised at this year's Pancreatic Cancer Walk on June 8th at 9 a.m. in Roosevelt Park will help expand research efforts. I hope that many in our audience will consider joining the walk on June 8th. Please consider making a donation or participating in research trials at the Cancer Institute of New Jersey. There will be contact information on the screen along with program credits. Thank you for watching Spotlight on Middlesex County. I wish you all the best of health. I am Freeholder Director Ron Rios.